Hello folks. Well, the last video we left off, we was servicing the corn head on the combine. We didn't quite get it done when we cut the video off, so we're going to pick that up today. All we got left to do is check the oil in the gearboxes on the corn head, and it should be totally done then. We're going to switch the combine over from wheat settings to corn settings, and that should pretty well do it for the combine. I might vacuum the cab out or something, you know, piddly like that. And after that, if we can, we're going to get the 9230 out and put it on the John Deere 512 disc ripper, chisel plow, whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to have to see how that works maybe, because right where we pull into the other shed, we've got a water leak. And so the ground is soft there, and the guy's supposed to be coming either today or tomorrow to fix it. So if I can't, I'm going to go over there and look. If I can't squeeze around where that leak is, I may just wait, because I don't want to take a chance on a big heavy tractor like that making the leak worse before the guy gets here. So we're just going to have to play that by ear. So let's get started. We're back to combine out, put it in the shop, and get started on those gearboxes. All right, so I went through on these gearboxes. That's going to be in this plug right here. I took the air hose and blew out around all them so you don't get dirt down in it when you take it off. So we got to back this plug out, and it's got a dipstick on it, and we'll see how much oil's in it. Now I use an impact to break them loose because they're right in there in a bad spot. You know, if you're up here with a ratchet, you're going to bust your knuckles trying to, and them things get tight, so you're going to bust your knuckles breaking them loose. So I just use an impact to get them loose, pull them out, wipe them off, and then stick them back in hand tight, and then check them is how I do it. All right, so these gearboxes, you probably remember the old like 93 series corn heads. They took actual corn head grease. It's a special grease from John Deere. Took the top plug out, crawled underneath it with a grease gun. You pumped it full till it come out the top and you was good. Now these newer corn heads, they take 80 W90 gear lube in the gearboxes, which is a lot better. I mean, you're not screwing around underneath it with a grease gun. You know, here if you got one that's a little bit low, you just add a dab to it. But generally these won't hardly take any at all. I mean, you might find one straggler out of all 8 here that might need just a hair, but for the most part, they should be in good shape. But you definitely always want to check them. You know, you develop a leak or something, why, you want to catch it, because I mean, I'm sure them are at least $5,000–6,000 a piece if you trash a gearbox, maybe more. So yeah, you want to keep an eye on that. Always want to look every day, make sure there's no leaks anywhere, some seal didn't go out. Very, very important. So, got the air compressor pumped up. Let's see if we can get one of these plugs out now, and I'll show you what it looks like inside. You see them got a dipstick on them. So, a lot easier than grease. I ended up taking a breaker bar and breaking all these loose. All right, one other thing we want to check is the auger chain. Your auger inside the head. That's over here it's under this shield right here. So we want to check that, make sure it's properly adjusted, and that should be about it on the corn head. I got to give it a couple shots of grease here like on the PTO shaft and whatnot, but that should pretty much take care of it then. Yeah, that old chain's pretty loose, so we'll get some wrenches and tighten it up. I wish for once Deere would make a goddamn bracket that fucking adjusts like a normal bracket instead of all this stupid fucking shit that they do. So last year, there's this really rough farm. We farm over west of here. It's just full of washouts, and it's a long story. I'm not even going to get into it. But nonetheless, the farm sold last spring. So after we get the crop off this fall, we're done farming it, which is fine by me because it's a rough ass farm. But anyway, I was picking corn down through there, and there was a spot where a whole bunch of gullies come together all at once. And normally the automatic header control is what I run, and that means the corn head will raise and lower itself when you come to, washouts or whatever. And I had that engaged. Well, it didn't react fast enough, and there was 3 snouts. It just bit the piss out of them. But being plastic, luckily he was able to get them popped out most of the way. But I've still got one over here that it works totally fine. It's not that bad, but it just drives me nuts looking from the cab down, seeing this big crease in one of the snouts. So I'm gonna see if I can clamp this thing up, add a little heat to it, and make it look a little nicer. We'll see. You can kind of see in there how big the bow is. That board, if you was to take it over and lay it on this side, it's gonna be pretty much straight. I mean, it might not fit exactly flush, but it's gonna be really close. Where here we've got this big gap. And like I say, it works fine, but it just drives me nuts staring at it. So I'm gonna see if I can try to make it look better. I'm gonna start out with the heat gun versus the torch. I've had a lot of people say, sometimes you can clamp them up and just park them out in the sun and they'll pop out. So I don't know, we'll see what we can do here. I'm not gonna get real carried away either. If it don't pop out, it don't pop out. I thought I'd just play around here and see what happens. Well, I'm gonna call this good. You can still see a little wrinkle in the two, but that's hard to get that one out because there's kind of a bracing inside there, I guess you could say. All that stuff there, so you really ain't got no good spot to hit it. That one was probably the worst. This one here had a little wrinkle up here, and then this one here had one. But overall, you can't really even see it unless you're in the sun just right. But man, that pissed me off the day I done that. That's the first time that's ever happened, and hopefully the last. But nonetheless, they're fine. They'll work the way they are. So, okay. I think now we can start changing the combine over from wheat to corn settings. All right, we're gonna go around this whole combine. I'm gonna show you how to switch it from corn to beans, which the wheat settings that it's on is basically the same as soybeans. So I'll just show you here, step by step. Nothing to it. You can do the whole thing. I think if I'm in a hurry, I can set the draper off and have the corn head on. I can basically go from cutting beans to picking corn in less than 10 minutes if I really wanted to push it hard and do it. But we'll go through it here and I'll show you how this all works. So starting out on the left side of your feeder house, this deal right here, I've already moved it and I'm not gonna do it again here because I can't hold the camera and move it at the same time. But you pull this ring. So normally like in wheat or soybeans, this lever will be straight down, if that makes sense. It'll be laying flat like that. So you pull that ring and lock it, and then take you either a wrench or a socket and put on that and pry it up, and then it'll snap back in. And that's for your feeder house drum, where your feeder house chain goes around the front there. That lifts that drum up. So in corn, you want that in the up position. There's one on this side of the feeder house and one on the other side. Next, up here is your rotor speed. I've already put it in first gear. In beans and wheat, that's in second gear. So you just grab this lever right here and you pull it out for second gear, which is high side. Push it in for the low side, nothing to that. Moving on around, next is our chopper speed. You can see here, corn setting is all the way in, neutral's in the middle, and then wheat or soybeans is all the way out. So open this up right here, this little lever right here, boom. Chopper is now on the slow side. Next is your knife bank on your chopper. Those stationary knives slide in and out of the chopper right there. So that'll chop your straw real fine. So you loosen that up. Pull that there. See, they slid out. Just like so. You do not want them in for corn. So you let them out. Tighten her back down, and that's done. Next, you come to this side. You got your, what they call Cob Deflector. Keeps cobs from flinging back forward and tearing up your sieves. So to adjust that, you just pull the little ring out, down like that. Next is your feed accelerator. There's a belt right there. You just take the tension off with this lever, you just pick it up and slide it down. Move the belt from one sheave to the next. or pulley, I guess. It's not a shiv, a pulley. And then tighten that back up. Now, corn to beans, you won't change that. On wheat, you run it in the high side, but we always leave ours in the low side on beans. If you get into some really tough beans, you could maybe change that, but 99% of the time, that'll never change for us. Then you get back to this side. Here's the first deal I showed you on the other side for your feed drum. Make her stand up just like that, and that's it. Now, like I say, that process is a little slower being one-handed, trying to hold a camera, but you can switch the whole thing over in probably realistically more like 5 minutes. It don't take anything at all. So that's done. Now I want to go through and just check stuff over from when we cut wheat, you know, make sure no belts are out of adjustment, no chains, which there shouldn't be, but I'm going to check it anyway. Now on these Deere combines, just about every chain and pulley has one of these tension settings here. And I don't know what the exact term for it is, but basically loosen your jam nut and then you start screwing that nut down to get the proper amount of tension on this chain, and this gauge here will show you. A lot of people stop at the top, but technically you don't. You bring the spring down to the first notch. But pretty much every major belt and chain has one of them on there to keep you from over tightening it, or it's easy of a morning when you're servicing, you can just walk around and look and you can say, man, that thing needs adjusted. So that's a pretty nice feature, and I'm sure everybody else has it too on their machines. But that one's good. Out of these two here, see how this bottom one here, the washer is right down to the first notch, and the top one here we've got some springs showing, so I will tighten that top one just a little bit. But overall, this thing ain't gonna need much maintenance at all. I mean, it was tip-top shape before we cut wheat, so I'm just gonna check a few belts and chains and it should be good to go. Give it a shot of grease and that should be it. I had a couple people ask, so I wanna show my tools here where I hang them on the side. Nothing fancy at all. I just took a couple of bolts and cut the heads off of them and then run the threads through the back and put nuts on them. And that's where I hang all my stuff. Guards, got two different kinds of sections on a Deere. Crescent wrench, hammer, draper tool. I try to hang as much stuff as I can outside the toolbox, because by the time I get my 2 sets of metric wrenches and everything else in there, it's just crammed completely full and you can't hardly even get it closed. And I hate having stuff laying up in the cab. You know, because when it's in the cab, then something breaks, then you got to carry all that stuff down the ladder. And it's just a good way to fall, and I don't like stuff rolling around in there, so I try to keep as much stuff as I can outside the combine, and this deal here works pretty good, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? The only thing you got to watch here is you got to leave an open area right here, because when that door closes, there's oil filters here, and you can't get into that. But other than that, everything else will clear. Now, I know they make them big toolboxes that go here that are 3 times the size of that one, but I don't really want to pay $200 or $300 for a toolbox and whatnot, so I just do it this way, and it's easy. You know, you're coming back to get a wrench, boom, it's right here, hammer, whatever. So that's just the way I do it, but to each his own on that deal. So I'm gonna get the grease gun now, give everything a shot of grease. Got everything greased, belts and everything's all checked, they're in good shape. Now we're gonna tighten the clean grain elevator. This is what hauls the grain up to the grain tank. And these paddles under here, these should be just tight enough that they'll barely wiggle back and forth, but you can't pull them away from the sprocket. So we do that out here, so we need to loosen the one jam nut and then run her down a little bit. We loosened these 4 bolts already. That'll give it the slack to start going down. If you over tighten these, it just immediately stretches them, especially in good corn and wet corn where it's heavy. So there's no sense in getting carried away with it. So right here, that's just a hair too tight. See how I can't wiggle it? So I'm gonna back that off about a 1/8 of a turn or a quarter, just enough where I can slide her back and forth this way, but not pull it away. Okay, there's that. Now that's something you're going to change or adjust several times in a season. I check mine about every 2 to 3 days. Not saying you have to adjust it that often, but I'd say once a week you're going to be wanting to probably adjust that. And the reason being is once that chain starts pulling away from the sprocket, especially if I can pull it away by hand, once you get all that heavy grain in there, that's even more weight stretching it. And then you'll get grain in between the chain and the sprocket, and it'll just crack the piss out of your corn. So you want to always keep them in check. And we'll do that's the tailings return next. We'll do it next. So I've had a lot of questions on, well, YouTube and TikTok both, if I like this combine. And, you know, so far I've only cut wheat with it, but as of now, yes, I really, really like it. It's funny when you go back over the years, you know, when we went from a 60 series combine to a 70, that was really nice. I like the 70 better than the 60. And when we went to the S series, the S600 series, a lot of people told me, oh man, you'd rather have your 70 series back. Well, that wasn't the case for me. That S660 was a lot better combine than the 70 series in my opinion. Now granted, we went up a class size when we went from 60 to 70, or I'm sorry, from 70 to S600, but I still just like the controls better in the S series, and there wasn't alarms going off. That damn 70 series, it seemed like every time you done anything in that combine, the monitor was beeping at you. And it wasn't nothing that was wrong, but it was, you know, you swing the unloading auger out, alarm goes off. You turn the unloading auger on, alarm goes off. You leave it on too long, alarm goes off. Just every time you done anything, there was an alarm going off to tell you that you were doing something. And it kind of got on your nerves a little bit. The S600 series, they quieted them down a whole bunch. You didn't have near the alarms beeping at you all the time and whatnot. So that was a major plus. And then the new 700 series, I've liked it better as far as the controls. Outside is pretty much the same. Inside, the controls, I do like them a little better. I will show you one thing here that's different that's hard to get used to. This sounds petty, and it's not a big deal at all, but it is so weird. For years and years and years, when you grab the hydro handle, you went to the right and then either forward, you know, or backward, however you're going to do it. This one here, you come to the left and then go. And the reason being, they said, was there was trouble with guys getting in their combine and they were jumping in a hurry, you know, and they would bump that hydrostat over and put it in gear. And so this is, I guess, maybe a fail-safe on that. It's already over, so you're not going to bump it over any farther and shove it in gear. But not a big deal at all, but it's just different getting used to that. Well, I think this old whore's done. Got the tire pressures checked, got it greased, chains, belts, everything's tight. So I think she's good to go. So I'm gonna get it out of here and I'm gonna quit for today. I'm just soaked in sweat. Man, it is hot. So hopefully tomorrow, maybe we'll put the 9230 on that John Deere 512 disc ripper and we'll get it in and check the wheel bearings on it. So I have no idea when the last time was that I talked to you guys. I don't remember now what we was doing. I think we was working on the combine. I said, well, I'll be back tomorrow to finish it up or whatever, but things got all screwed around and hell, it's probably been a week later now. So nonetheless, today we're going to shuffle some machinery around. We got the combine sitting right in the way. Things are just in disarray, so it's time to make the big switch, get all the fall stuff back in the shed and ready to go. Still waiting on my tractor and planter. It's been out at Deere for 6 weeks or more, getting the air conditioner worked on, and then they had a recall on the planter they was going to have to do. But things are just crazy out there. They ain't been working on the tractor this whole time, obviously, but you know, they work on it and then have to order parts and get pulled off and switch to something else. And so hopefully it'll be done this week. The way they talk, they're just going to leave the planter till after harvest. They'll get it in, work on it then, and then we'll bring it home after harvest. So good enough. I mean, we've got to have the tractor to put on the grain cart. So that's the plan as of now. But let's get started here. Let's move all this stuff out of here and get stuff rearranged so we ain't eating up half the shed here with just one item. got all that crap out of here. I wish I had my grain cart tractor here. I'd like to hook that grain cart on and check it over. I mean, I don't know that it needs anything, but it'd be nice just to get it hooked on and checked over and all that good stuff. I mean, I could run the 95 on it. That's the tractor we've always ran on it, but we're thinking about doing a little bit different this year. Put the 85 on the cart, and then the 95 can go on the Landau Ripper and be sitting there ready to go. So I guess we'll stick with that program. So I'm gonna back the combine in, I think. I'll just have to see how I want to do this here. Well, that's a wrap on shuffling all the machinery around. It was kind of in disarray. So I kind of want to get it straightened up where you can get stuff in and out and not be leaving stuff set outside. About the only two things I got left to do is I want to get both chisel plows over here, check the wheel bearings. Going to put new points on one of them, but all that's pretty piddly stuff. Won't take long at all. And I need to get the draper over here sometime, but I checked it over real good before I cut wheat, so it's in good shape. So I think I'm just going to leave it set in the other shed for a couple more weeks and then go from there. I don't want it in the way once harvest starts. So I think we're going to call that good on that. Got to get an auger ready, which that's kind of one of the very last things we do because it's a great big long sucker and don't want it sitting over here in the way either. So I don't know. I'm kind of lost on this episode. I don't remember what we've done, what we haven't done. So that should wrap it up on this one, I guess. So thanks for tuning into the channel, guys. Keep it tuned right here to the Straightforward Farming YouTube page. I'd say today's September 1st. I'd say we're probably at least 2 weeks off yet. We're hoping to start between the 15th and the 20th. So keep it tuned right here. You guys will know as soon as we start. You'll know when I know. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you.